So I'm not dead yet. I've just been busy. Got another ICF block deal going on here. It's a 40 by 40. Some 10-foot wing walls out there for a porch for the upper story. This is a walkout basement. On top is going to be a, I think the cool people call it a barn-dominium, which will be a 40 by 80, and we'll put a partition wall, at the 40-foot mark. And he'll have 40-foot garage or shop area over here, 40 by 40 up above, 40 about 40 by 40 below. But anyway, thought I'd show you guys this ICF deal. One problem that we ran into right off the get-go was a lot of sandstone out here, and a lot of times you dig deep enough in sandstone, you run into water. Now, it really hasn't rained out here in 2 weeks, but boy, this stuff flows all the time. And if you can't tell, he kind of wanted to build here because there's a pond back there. I don't know if you see it. He picked a pretty place for this, and he's pretty set on building here. So I said I think I can make it work. So what I did was I put probably at least 8 inches of 1.5 inch clean rock down there as a base to allow that water to flow out. Then I formed my footing on top of that, which the footing's a foot tall and 3 foot wide, with four sticks and number 5 rebar. So should be strong enough. I am going to put a drain around this, a French drain around the back, put a mat on top, and then dirt. And also before we fill this up, we're going to put a coating on the exterior of this to protect it a little better. We're kind of down in a hole here, so I built everything up above ground level another foot or so. So we're going to be plenty high off the ground. Not going to have to worry about groundwater or runoff coming into his house. Now, as far as framing this stuff up, you know, it goes together really easy. We've learned through trial and error. I take the plans that my customer gives me, and you know, this was supposed to be 40'6" from outside of this wall to the outside of that wall. With my blocks, I could get 40'4" and not have to put a splice in it. So I shrank it down 2 inches. 40'4" works perfect because I'll put a 2-inch tin lip around the bottom of this and be good to go for the metal building on top. So sometimes you got to kind of fudge your plans a little bit to make everything easier, and they're not going to miss, you know, a little bit of room, 2 inches of room anyway. But I put my braces in there about every 8 foot or so, and we had to get a hammer drill and drill up the sandstone so we could drive our pins down there. That was fun. It's going to be more fun trying to get them out. But one thing I like to do is try to give ourselves enough room to get something back here to backfill. You got to have room to backfill. If you don't have room to backfill, it's going to be hard to get compaction all the way around your building. I would have liked to move this out further. I think that's about 8 foot down there. It's going to be a tight fit, but I can still make it work. You know, I'm going to get a little trench packer, and we're going to put about 6 inches in at a time and roll it all the way up. And before I do that, I'm, you know, put some vinyl back stuff on that and drain down there to keep water help water run out of here. Even if water does get underneath, it's got to go underneath and it's got to come up a foot to where the bottom of the pad. But I'll put a Visqueen down there and pour on top of it. That footer that's already poured, well, both of them poured, but the older one was supposed to be enough to span this this floor. I'm going to put a post-tension floor in this. And the architect that designed the house is obviously not an engineer, but he thought that a 2x6 wall would be enough support. Talked to the post-tension cable guys. They said it wasn't. So I'm gonna have to run a I-beam on top of that, and I've put a few columns. Also gonna have to put an I-beam from that spot footing to that spot footing to help pick up some of the weight for the staircase, because I'll have a big notch out in the middle for that staircase. So anyway, we're also going to put the utility room is going to be in this corner. We'll put a chase coming up here. We're going to put all this mechanical room stuff down here. So we'll put a chase here to run up heat and air for the above part and downstairs part. And since I've made these walls 10'6", we'll drop the ceilings down to 8 foot and give the heat and air guys and electricians and stuff enough room to work underneath the slab. What I like to do to try to keep this straight, and before I pour it, I go and straighten everything and, you know, string line it, eyeball it, and make sure our walls are straight. One thing that, you can't really see that, but one thing I like to do is run a 2x4 flat or on edge, then I put a 2x4 kind of like a stiff back on top, because as you can see, my braces are every 8 foot. So, you know, I turn that turnbuckle there and it doesn't really pull it evenly. So what that stiff back on top does, this 2x4 here will kind of keep everything tied together. Rebar sticking out towards the inside is going to help with the post-tension floor. Always walk on 2x12s for scaffolding. I don't use anything less. It's bad enough. Oh yeah, and one thing I did, well, I put the scaffolding way too low. I mean, this is about mouth level here, and I ate a bunch of concrete on this deal. So that was one mistake that I learned from on this job for sure. But we'll have another I-beam running out here for the porch going across. A couple columns down there that I haven't poured yet because, well, braces are in the way. But we'll pour them when we pour the floor inside. I'll show you the bracing and stuff, what I do around doors and windows, how I make that work so well. I say so well, we've had blowouts before, but that was before we knew what we're doing, really. And once you have a couple blowouts, man, you learn your lesson, because those are not fun at all. So you get down to the front here, like I said before, you know, you kind of got to make your plans fit the blocks the best you can. These windows were actually supposed to be moved over towards the door like 3 or 4 inches, which would have put it right in here. Here's my plastic strip that goes all the way across that helps keep that together. If I would have moved it down here, the next block would have been 6 inches over, and that's enough room to have a bulge or a blowout. So what I did was I moved it back towards the wall 3 inches, and that keeps it close to the strip on this side and the strip on this side. So, you know, it made my life easier, made it quicker, made it faster, because I didn't have to wrap everything in plywood. I did wrap the tops, but that's just an extra precaution. On this one, actually, this is the first time I did this, and you're not going to be able to see it because it's full of concrete, but they make T-blocks for these to have a wall like this. The problem with this T-blocks is they don't have enough overlap. They only overlap like 2 or 5, no, it's 4 inches. And that's really not enough to be secure, so you always have to wrap both sides with plywood anyway. So what I did, well, and they're $5 a block higher. So I take regular old 90s and I cut the end out and just continued this wall out, butted up next to it. And I got stuff in the way here, but I had to put this 2x4 here to keep this from coming this way. And it worked out perfect. And this door, this door turned out just right. See how close I am to the block? And another thing that's going to help you out if you do this is when you put windows in and you go to trim stuff out, you got a plastic strip right there to nail your trim to. We've learned that the hard way. It kind of sucks because you go through all that trouble to put the windows exactly where they need to be, and towards the end of the job when you're trimming it out, you go to try to trim the windows out and you don't have anything to nail to. So if you kind of plan ahead a little bit, it makes it easier on you down the road. But you can see we got water flowing out from underneath here all the way down the hill. So I might dig that out a little bit and throw some clean rock on top of it. Put a mat down and fill it up with dirt on top of it. And that'll allow that water to keep flowing out. And as long as that water doesn't get stopped anywhere, and it would have to come up higher than this to do that. But I mean, I don't see how they can have a water issue later down the road. I could be wrong, but so far my plan has been working just right. But it never hurts to run a French drain. That's going to help. And just a little extra insurance. But anyway, what else? Oh, I like to put my forms on the outside. Summertime in Oklahoma, I guess it's September now, but it's still 95 degrees out. And you put those forms on the inside, man, it's like a freaking oven in there. And it blocks all the wind. It's miserable. So I put my forms on the outside, and at least that way you can get a breeze when you get up there. So anyway, that'll help you out. And sometimes you can't put them on the outside, but other times when you have a choice, put them on the outside. It'll save you some sweat maybe. But this little bit is going to have to be taken out for a retaining wall going there. And I ordered enough block to make the retaining wall out of the styrofoam block as well. And they kind of want it to have a radius on it to come out here. So if I remember, I can do a video on how to make a radius block. It's really not as hard as it sounds. Pretty easy. Just takes a little more time. But I keep thinking about making this pour with Simon's forms or something like that, and it just I hate it. I can't stand the thought of doing it that way. And that's how we've done a lot of retaining walls and stuff like that in basements before, and it's just so much work. Me and 2 other guys, basically we got 2.5 days of labor in doing this and shoring everything up. And I guess I got another half a day in pouring it, but as far as labor goes, man, it's awesome. Take those forms down and you're good to keep going. So anyway, just want to do a short video on this and let everybody know that I'm not dead. This is going to be kind of a cool deal. I've never done a metal building on top of a basement before, so that's a new one for me. But I am short-handed, and I've been through, I think, 4 guys in the last, I don't know, 4 months, and man, it's hard to find good help. So if any of you guys need a job, pay sucks. Boss is kind of a jerk, but you know, it's a job. But anyway, that's all I got on this one. Thanks for watching.